Hey, so a very, very warm welcome to the Divine Business Circle and to the very first episode of Divine Business Journeys. And we have with us today our very first guest, who is Elsa Field, a priestess of Avalon and sound healer. Welcome, Elsa. So I will be your hostess and guide. My name is Fiona Morris, and we are going on a journey to meet creatives, healers, spiritual business owners, and we'll be learning from our guests' experience and listen to their tips and gifts and also any challenges and breakthroughs that they can share with us so that we can learn from their journeys. And so I'm really excited today because it is also the new moon in Taurus day. Just letting someone in. The new moon in Taurus, and it is also a solar eclipse. This happening later today. So if we have time, we might have a very brief look at the astrology chart for today. Had a wee chat with Elsa beforehand, and she's also curious to hear what's going on. So happy to honor that request. Welcome to those of you who are joining us live today. Hello. We've got Lorraine, we've got Jennifer, and there may be some others who join us shortly. This will also be going out on a YouTube replay. So hello to anyone who's also joining us on the replay. So without further ado, Elsa, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and let me just unpin myself so we can see you too. Hi, Elsa.
Hi, Fiona. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure. So, we're going to be looking forward to your beautiful sound bath a bit later on. And let me just, okay, I'm just playing around with the view here, speaker view. Okay, so I would love to hear, Elsa, about your divine business journey. So we met a couple of years ago, and it was through this virtual abundance circle, and which was an interesting experience. And we spent quite a bit of time traveling together through that. And in fact, it seems quite strange, but I don't think we have yet met in person, although I feel we know each other very well. So that was, I think at that time you were still completing your dissertation, and you're going to have to remind me on the details of that. And I'm also curious to hear, because you'd graduated from that in the time that we were kind of journeying together, and you had also completed your priestess qualifications, is that correct? You just completed your, I don't know what you would call it, your studies, or your, what do you call a priestess training, I suppose.
Training. So looking back, actually we met at quite a pivotal moment in my kind of career path a couple of years ago. Because we were journeying together for quite a long time, and it's really interesting that we met inside of that abundance circle. And I'm really interested to chat maybe a little bit about your experience of that as well. That would be really interesting to talk about. As we kind of talk about this whole like feminine business, what it means to be in this realm of entrepreneurship and remain in your authentic truth as a feminine being, and all that means. But essentially I kind of met this point a couple of years ago, and maybe some of you who are watching will resonate with this, where I had been going along a path for so long, and it was a really intense kind of upper chakra path. I was really working my brain a lot, and I completed my doctorate, my PhD, and I was doing a bunch of research work. And at the time I met you, Fiona, I think I was just like graduating from my doctorate, which was a 5-year journey. And I just met this point where I was like, hang on, I'm just going down this path. And is this really my authentic truth? Is this really what divine source spirit, what I would call goddess energy, really wants me to do in this life? Is this really my path? And I just had to really do this 360 of like, okay, I really enjoy the gratification I get from other people's recognition of how smart I am in the research world. But that is based on this old outdated paradigm basically of really needing affirmation from other people in your professional life. And actually what I've done with the business that I've created for myself is I am my own cheerleader, and actually I'm the only person that can really motivate myself to get going with what I'm doing. But that is where the true freedom comes from, because everything is by my own design rather than from a supervisor telling me what to do. And that model works for so many people, and I'm not knocking it at all. It's just that it didn't really feel authentic for me anymore. And so I gradually went through this process of becoming self-employed, and it took about a year and a half for me to really fully make the leap into being full-time with my business. And I'm still involved in another project where I was an employee and I'm now a director of the company. But I'm very much like not I'm keeping that boundary of like, I'm not an employee, but I really want to contribute and be there. And that's the balance that I'm in right now, which I really love. And I'm curious to know if any of that resonates with you and your journey that you've been on with building your own business. Yeah.
Yes. Well, certainly from the academic side of things, my first degree was at the University of Edinburgh, which is one of these one of these well-known universities, and I studied philosophy, was my first degree. And I think I went into it with very romantic notions of what philosophy was. I literally took it as the kind of Greek transliteration, which is love of wisdom. And so I was aged 19. In fact, funnily enough, actually, it's reminding me, my first degree that I was accepted for was actually international language and business, and international business, which I decided, I got this strong intuition to just to turn that place down at the last minute and follow my heart, which took me into philosophy, which I thought would be a much more romantic path. And it turned out to be very heady, very rational, all based on these very masculine ancient philosophers based in logic and philosophy of science, and how modern philosophy has turned into this very rational expression of so-called wisdom, and very unbalanced, it felt to me. So I really hear what you're saying with that kind of that headiness. And I think at that time I didn't think I would do another degree, so I completed it. It was a 4 years of my life that I gave to that, which I don't regret, because I ended up starting my journey exploring other things like the astrology, and the tarot also came in at the time, and that's what I did in my spare time. And being a student, you do have a bit more leisure time to explore things of interest, and that was really the founding for me. I did my first introduction to astrology course there, which is something I now offer to others 20 something years later, 25 or so. So yeah, even though I'm far away from the academic world now, it was almost the contrast of that has informed for me the way I now how I now teach, because I like to teach in a much more experiential way, and kind of bringing alive all of our senses, and not just that black and white on pages books and libraries, which I love. Actually, I love books and libraries, but I think that more embodied way of learning is something that I've learned along the way, and I know that you have too. And I'd love to hear more about how you've kind of gone into a more embodied way of learning and also sharing since your academic days. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, this resonates with me so much, because it's literally been this process for me of deprogramming and deconditioning from that way of learning and also teaching into, a space where we can bring in the somatic and the embodied and all of these other realms, and also the etheric realms, and how we journey into different realms when we teach and when we experience as a student as well. And I definitely really loved having that academic grounding, and it's still a really core part of how I teach. Like, I really enjoy having the left brain, right brain kind of balance in how I teach, where sometimes I'll begin with a presentation or something that's like really going into the historical details about something we're looking at. And then we'll go into a journey or an experience or an embodied experience. And that's generally the way that I really love to teach. And I love to get geeky as well, and really with the esoteric and the spiritual side, really go in, like you were saying, with all of those amazing details, because it's when we have, for me, the grounding of that fact and that knowledge that we can then really expand and go beyond it and find what our own lived experience of it is, and also what we want to channel through. But for me, having that grounding is really helpful. So an example is, I work a lot with the ancient Egyptian goddesses. They're a really huge inspiration in my work and in my music and in how I channel. And what I was experiencing was that when I was doing a lot of one-to-one sound healing sessions for people, I would often have this sense that the presence of Divine Mother Isis or Hathor was really coming in. But I didn't really understand how to ground that energy yet, because I hadn't gone away and done the research about those goddesses that I now have done, and also gone to the places where they were revered for thousands of years, which I did in the spring on pilgrimage. And so it's just that feeling of like really anchoring in those codes for me is really important. And I'm not saying that you can't do it without that knowledge at all, because many amazing teachers do, but just for the way I work, I love to have this fusion of the kind of yang grounded fact with the open just expanse of what all the possibilities could be. And that's really helpful for me in how I teach and how I work. So and I wouldn't even call that like masculine and feminine energy. I kind of feel like that polarity isn't really true anymore. Like, people use those terms a lot, but it's quite reductive, really, isn't it? Because actually the masculine can contain everything, as can the feminine. Absolutely. So it's more just like, it's more like the logical and the expansive, that kind of polarity that I love to work with.
I love that you touched on that masculine and feminine. Those terms are quite limiting, aren't they? And I think, they can be quite helpful in a way to help us describe energy, but it also brings up all these connotations and associations which aren't very helpful. That's a whole other rabbit hole I'm sure we could do a whole talk on. But thank you for mentioning that. And in terms of divine business, and we often think of divine masculine and divine feminine, and the sort of interaction and the dance between the two in terms of what I think of as divine business is very holistic, and actually is integrating that maybe more rational, more active side with the more receptive and the more emotional or intuitional side of things, and being able to honor both and all. And both is, again, sort of splitting it in two. It's definitely more than both. There's all kinds of levels without it becoming too complicated, and it can get quite heady as well when we start to understand it, which was certainly my experience of studying philosophy. I felt like I needed to decompress for several years after that, because it threw me into this imbalanced way of trying to experience wisdom, and the rest of my life, I suppose, has been learning to ground that. As you know, I'm a herbalist as well. I ended up maybe about 8 years after I finished my philosophy degree, I found myself doing a herbal medicine training, and that just felt such a lovely, it was a really healing journey for me to just to get into that more physical reality of real plants and being able to smell and touch and feel them. And it's quite nice to be having this conversation under a new moon in Taurus, which is all about that sensual things that you can touch and taste and feel, and that kind of sensual part of things, which is it's not something, I mean, I think in holistic business and therapy, a lot of physical therapies, there's a lot more of that sensual side of things. Oh, I'm sorry, Elsa. I'm just hearing my mum calling me. I'm sorry to pause this. I'm going to just ask you to unmute, you could talk about, I'm really sorry to do this, but my mom's calling me. Would you mind just talking amongst yourselves with whoever's here?
Oh, I hope she's okay. I actually can't mute her as well. So yeah. hopefully she can just ground with whatever is going on there in the background. Fiona is a total warrioress, incredible lady. If some of you know her story, she's over at the moment helping her parents to move, and just huge amount of balancing going on with like the home life and the business life. So so I'd love to maybe just connect with the two of you that are here live and just see how this conversation that we've been having maybe resonates with you, and how these threads of sacred business and finding our authentic truth maybe are playing out for you in wherever you're at with your experience. So I'm just wondering, Jennifer, do you want to share anything?
It's interesting to kind of hear the journeys and how things unfold, and how it's often following that intuition and just what feels aligned is what leads us on the best journey. I feel like a lot of us are in that place right now, so all of that is resonating for me at the moment, for sure.
Amazing. So what has been your experience of that journey?
I mean, it's how I became a healer. It's how I've gotten into become an initiator. It's how I've started working more with kind of flow states and helping people to live in those kind of higher aspects and elements in their daily lives. And it's all come from, oh, I'm interested in this course, or I'd like to learn a little bit more about this, or how can I understand this a bit better? So a lot of it kind of through my own meditation and, seeking out mentors who are masters of what they do. And just kind of one step at a time. So, I've grew up in the States and never thought I'd be living in the UK or, doing what I'm doing now. Never ever thought, never grew up with any of this. So, so it's, it's looking back, it's always easy to kind of connect the dots and see how it's gone. It's the moving forward that's always very interesting with that, but great lessons along the way, and good reminder with the conversation you two are having that, I've done this before, where I've just made that next step and been curious about things and just allowed myself to see where that goes, and then witnessing how my life unfolds with that.
Amazing. Oh, so beautiful to hear a bit about your journey, Jennifer. There's this huge process, right, of where we can see the unknown path emerging before us, and we always have that choice of like, do we take that step? Do we surrender into the unknown, into that flow state, or do we just go along with what we've maybe been programmed to carry on with? And that's the process that I went through, and it sounds like a similar process unfolding for you as well. Absolutely. Amazing. Oh, Fiona, you're back.
Hello.
Everything okay?
As some of you who are here know, I'm actually in a caregiving situation with my parents at the moment, and my mum is just shouting for me in panic. Just suddenly my dad was choking on some food. So I'm really sorry to, I think in these sort of situations, I had to just suddenly go. He's okay. He's okay. Still coughing, but my mom's coping. So apologies for the, apologies for, thank you for your message, Jennifer. He sort of went a little bit blue in the face, and my mom was just suddenly very panicked, but we've got him sitting up, and I think he'll be okay. So it is an eclipse day. The eclipse hasn't got exact yet, but these are the sort of things, especially when the eclipse is direct, it's actually conjunct the sun and moon. I mean, at the moment, the moon and sun aren't exactly, I mean, they're in the same sign, but they're not quite on sort of crossing paths, which will happen later today. Thank you, Lorraine. So I was, funnily enough, I was mentioning to Elsa before, it's like, oh, the eclipse chart. I was having a look at the astrology chart, and it was looking quite harmonious. There's not any oppositions or conjunctions for the or squares for the actual time of the eclipse, but there is Uranus, the planet of unpredictability, in the sign of Taurus, which likes things to be stable and calm and predictable. So kind of interesting that this would happen on this call, but it's just life, isn't it? So
it is, yeah.
Part of divine business, I suppose, is dealing with unpredictability and change. And thank you so much, everybody who's here, for your kind comments and for being understanding. I'm sure everybody has your own experience of when you're in this kind of position, whether it's having children or elderly parents or loved ones that you have responsibility for. So balancing life, home and business is all part of it. Actually, at this point, just as we were talking about balance, I drew a tarot card just before we came on to just sort of feel into the energy of our call today. And this is the one. I've got this filter on my thing, so it might sort of do funny things. Let me just stand in front of it. It's the Two of Stones, which is the earth element in the Gentle Tarot. And so stones is that the physical realms, the earth realms. And here she's throwing these stones in the air. So something that we see as quite dense and heavy, she's kind of playing with. And I think that's quite lovely, a lovely symbol for divine business in general. Just, sometimes think of, a lot of people say to me, that they don't like the word business because it sounds too business-like, I suppose, and people have all kinds of associations with that. But I think when you turn your business into something divinely connected, it can bring this lightness and sort of fun and enjoyment. And we're not what's the term? Living to work, but working. Oh no, that's not it. Working to live.
I definitely resonate with what you're saying, though. It's like this feeling that we can really reclaim this term. But I also feel that for women especially, who actually haven't been allowed to have business ventures for many centuries, right? Even millennia, there's this incredible feeling of like empowerment and real taking ownership of that for ourselves, and having the source of our income actually being something that is divinely guided by us rather than by others, and that we are the source of our own abundance and abundant flow. I think that's a huge part for me of why I love being an entrepreneur, and why actually for me it's a devotional practice. It's like every day sitting at the altar of my devotion to my business and saying like, you're a part of me, but you're also separate from me, and you're serving so many people through who you are. And just that feeling of the more I really give, the more I receive. So I love having a word to describe what I do that is separate from me, like seeing it as the business, because for me it's like linked to me, but it's also the source of so much magic for others as well. So it's that feeling that your business can grow beyond you and really become a happening that's actually rippling out to so many people. And for women, this is just an incredible new paradigm that we're creating for ourselves, really. So it's empowering for me to use the word business, and I know lots of people as well that don't like that term. But I can't at this point I can't think of a better word to describe that really anchors me in that physical realm of the actuality of what it is, you know.
And I think as a divine business owner, we can bring that element of transformation into any heaviness around terms that may arise in others. And there's a kind of shifting that can happen when we take our business in a more holistic way, and we have to go through the journey of experience the contrast of that, as we were talking about previously, perhaps a academic career previously, or working within businesses or companies that don't feel divine or don't feel aligned to our true purpose. But that's again part of that journey. I'm really curious to ask you also, just to because you mentioned that you do one-to-ones, and I know you've got a group experience or immersion coming up on Monday. And then you also mentioned that you're a director of a business, a separate business that's not the sound healing. Is that correct? Something completely different. So I'd be curious to know just sort of what is your kind of, how do you divide up all the different things that you do? I suppose they all kind of meld in a beautiful way, but how do you kind of separate out? Do you have sort of some days where you're doing one-to-ones, or just share with us what a kind of working week or month or season looks like for you?
Oh, I love this question. I love it. And I love hearing how other people do it as well. I find that so inspirational. And so the model that I use is similar to what one of my mentors uses, and she really suggested that to me. And it was a real sea change moment where I realized why I kept burning out in my business, which happened last year a couple of times. I would just be going, and then crash. And when it's your passion project and something that you love to do, then of course you want to do loads of work at all hours of the day and night and just carry on pushing through, right? But what I've really found so liberating for me is identifying the times when I'm most productive in my day and really prioritizing them. And then the times when I know my brain is naturally not that on point, which for me is the mornings. I am not a morning person. This is just about okay because we're in the late morning, but like early mornings are not my thing. That is really my spaciousness time. And the time that I take for myself. And I actually, because I work with a lot of people over in the States and Canada, and they're obviously waking up like 5 to 8 hours later than us, I actually find that timetable works quite well for me. Like I'm perfectly fine working a little bit in the evenings. Yeah, Jennifer's saying she's the same. Because it gives me that free space and that time to take a breath in the mornings. And so I'm generally really strict about like, I don't take calls before 10 a.m. And also I have this thing that I do now, which I've been doing for a few months, which is so beautiful, where I actually only really have client calls on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I have these 3 really intense days. Well, they're intense for me. They're actually still pretty spacious, but they're intense for me. And then Mondays and Fridays are either days off in addition to the weekend, or they are like admin days, behind the scenes days when I'm talking to my VA or other contractors that I'm working with, and they're just days that I get to breathe. And so I love that, having the spaciousness of basically a 4-day weekend if I need it.
Perfect.
And I can always weave in extra meetings on those days if I absolutely have to. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are like my core days. And they're the days when I'm being outward, when I'm saying, like, here I am, I'm showing up on camera on these days. And that for me was what was really challenging to find the balance with in online business, was the kind of pressure to turn up all the time and be camera ready.
Yeah.
When actually, you know, that's just not the reality of our lives, right? We're human beings. We don't just exist in this strange little like Zoom realm where we're just always camera ready. And there's so many moving parts to running an online business, right? As I'm sure you know as well.
Yes.
So that really works for me, is like having the breathing space 4 days a week where I'm not actually required to show up for anyone else apart from myself, and I can really practice that devotional aspect of my business, like really giving back to the business or giving back to myself with whatever self-care practices I need. So for anyone who's watching who's experiencing that kind of like rapid burnout that can happen in entrepreneurship, I would really suggest that as a good tip, is like, firstly, identify what times of the day you're actually productive, because a 9 to 5 work day is a full-on expectation for most people. And then just see if you can shift. Like, obviously people have all kinds of commitments, like your kids or whoever you're caring for or whatever's going on, but just seeing if there are like slots where you can really hone in as your productive time. And then also maybe try like having all of your Zoom calls and outward facing aspects in the middle of the week or in like an intense 3-day period, and then you get spaciousness the rest of the time. That really works for me.
That's a brilliant tip. And I think it's, just a reminder of how healing and how important having boundaries, healthy boundaries are. And I suppose also I felt so relaxed hearing you describe your working week. It was just, after that little frenetic moment there, it's like, and it's kind of unusual. And you're talking to someone about their working week to actually find it relaxing. How refreshing is that?
It's such a new paradigm for me as well. And it's really like the penny really dropped for me when one of my mentors said to me, like, I'm in it for the long game. I want to be a part of this coaching industry for many, many decades to come. And that's when I really realized, I was like, oh yeah, well, if I'm going to do that, I really have to take care of myself. It sounds obvious, but in the kind of masculine driven work ethic. And I do think there's a difference as well between male and female biology in this sense, because obviously women are cyclical beings and men have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. So there's like this sense where we just have to give ourselves space in the month, or most of us do as women, because that actually really enhances the time that we can give to others as well. So that is a huge thing as well for me, is planning around my menstrual cycle. And it's always something that I can get better at. But it's definitely a huge just mindset shift of that whole like, oh, I don't have to be just camera ready all of the time. I can take space. And for instance, for me, when I'm in my premenstrual phase, I'm actually really, really really sharp in my upper centers. Like, I can do all of the like copywriting and web design and like behind the scenes tricky things. I'm really good at that. Whereas like when I'm on my moon time or just after, I'm very much dreamy, envisioning, and I get new downloads of things I want to create. So yeah, and I think the other piece that you just touched on, Fiona, is that aspect of feeling relaxed about the working week, because we can actually do this radical act of filling up our cups with more than we give out. Like, it's actually tipping the scales the other way.
And I find the more we expand into business, the deeper our self-care needs to be, not less, which I think is the kind of what we've maybe been programmed so far to think of. A successful business needs to be, you know, switched on at all times, being open to messages, and, you know, all that. Yeah, I don't really like describing it as masculine, but that, you know, the paradigm that we've been living, you know, for up until quite recently, and it's lovely to see a lot more of these divine, but I call them divine business, that seem really connected with spirit, and that does allow for a lot of spaciousness and expansion. I mean, we do need space in order to expand, do we not? And when we fill that space with so many things, I mean, I still have, you know, when I hear myself saying that, you know, I still need to weed things out, you know, going on that Taurian theme where there's like maybe too much or too many ideas. I'm definitely an ideas, multi-passionate type of person. And so there's that needing to create space within that. And, you know, park some ideas and have ways of managing within that. So I'm aware that, yeah, time is flying, and we are really excited to experience your sound bath. How are you doing for time there? We've got about 45 minutes into our session. What feels good for you?
I think let's do a 15-minute sound experience.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, then we have a little bit of time for questions and any other astrology tidbits that you want to bring in after.
Sure.
Yeah, does that sound good?
That sounds lovely. That sounds beautiful. Okay, well, I will pass over to you, and I'm going to ask whoever, Jennifer says yes, anyone who's on this call just now, just to double check that you're muted. I'm going to mute myself as well, and do your best not to unmute yourself while Elsa's doing her sound bath, so that we can experience the sound at its fullest. I'm also going to switch off my video as well, so that I can just relax into it, and do bring us back, Elsa. I might drift away. So without further ado, I will just switch myself off and look forward to the experience.
Thank you, Fiona. Ah, so beautiful to be here with you. So I noticed that Lorraine was wearing headphones, which is great. For Fiona and Jennifer and anyone else who's catching the replay or watching live on YouTube, if you have headphones or earbuds, the sound will just be a little bit more immersive for you. So it's not by any means essential, but if you have that nearby and you want to just change how you're plugged in right now to this experience, then go ahead and do that. And then just finding a comfortable space for you to relax. So really encouraging you to lie down if that feels supportive, either on your bed or on a yoga mat, on the floor with some blankets. It's actually really lovely to be on the floor supported, because then you can really feel the energy of the earth below you and how you can just sink in and really relax into this experience. And then once you're in your comfortable and warm, cozy space, just allowing your body to completely relax. Allowing your body to sink into the supports that you've given it. Just taking some deep breaths together. your exhale, just letting go of anything that's not of this moment. Practicing presence, the art of presence. Allowing that sigh or that sound to come and offering that to the earth as a sacred gift to Mama Gaia. I call in the divine ones, the ancient beings, calling the divine mother Isa, goddess Isis, calling her in on her wings of light to hold the energy for us today in this sacred circle. Calling to goddess Hathor, celestial cow mother, Taurian grandmother of the sky, horned one, lady of music, lady of mystery, of love, of sensuality. May these sacred sounds be an offering to you. Calling to you, Lady of Avalon, great goddess of the sacred Isle of Avalon, here at Beltane, the time of blossoming, the time of bursting forth, time when all of nature is making love, is in love. We call to you, Lady with your white mare, Rhiannon, Olwen, Ellen of the Waves, Bladiweth, flower maiden. And allowing yourself now, allowing yourself to let these sacred sounds wash over you as we enter this temple space together. This space of receiving the magic and the mystery that your own soul desires to reveal to yourself. And allowing any visuals to come in, any insights, any dreams, any words, allowing them to flow through you and wash over you as we go deeper into this meditation. Lady of the forest, Lady of the dew-wet dawn, Lady of the moonlight, the goddess is in everything, in every form of beauty. The goddess is in everything, in every form of nature. And slowly, slowly breathing yourself back into your body. Allowing yourself to integrate the wisdom and the knowledge that you've received. Allowing yourself to gently maybe turn onto one side into the fetal position. And just rest. And when you're ready, taking your time, you can gently, gently sit up, take some water. And just gently returning from wherever you've traveled back into the here and now, back into this physical realm, under this beautiful Taurus new moon. And giving thanks to the overlighting presence of the divine ones and to those beings that we have called in together, the Lady of Avalon, Hathor, Isis, Mary Magdalene, divine feminine presence throughout all creation. We offer you our devotion and thanks for holding us in this sacred space today, giving thanks to the elements of earth, air, fire, and water, the four directions, the cardinal presences. We give thanks. Beltane, blessings, blessed be. Ah. How are you feeling, Fiona?
I'm feeling amazing after that, Elsa. That was fantastic. My goodness, I'm just getting my lights back on here. Wow, my goodness, what a beautiful gift. My body's all tingling, my heart just expanded, and feeling so much gratitude for all those beautiful divine beings you've just invoked into this space and the blessings. And what a magical way to move through this eclipse portal that's opening today, or in preparation on this Beltane Eve, on this new moon day, on this solar eclipse day. There's just like a lot of all this alignment coming into being, just over from today and moving through the next few months. Feels like a very, very potent and powerful time. So it feels really, really special to receive the gift of that beautiful sound bath. Elsa, thank you so, so much. And on a personal level, just what a really lovely way to shift out of a kind of moment of panic for a moment there before the session, before your session, and just drop into this real divine pool, into that beautiful river. Yeah, thank you so much. That was lovely, lovely. And I'm here in Indonesia at the moment, and you did suggest that we wear earphones, but I grabbed them and I quickly went to check in on my dad just as you were starting that up, and then I left them through there. So I was just a little bit like, oh. And at the same time, the mosque's call to prayer was starting up, so I had that all blending in with your session, which felt kind of just a really beautiful way to acknowledge the location of where I am at this place in time, and I'm feeling all that goddess energy interweaving with all of that and just swirling around me. So feels like such a blessing. And you made a request to have a quick peek at the astrology.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Portal. So let's have a quick look at that. Won't go into a lot of depth because yes, I know that your time's precious. And yeah, Lorraine says, thank you so much for this beautiful gift on this Beltane Eve. It was a very earthy goddess experience. It certainly was. Yeah. So
glad you enjoyed it, Lorraine. Yeah.
So let me just show you the chart for tonight's tonight's new moon solar eclipse. This may mean absolutely nothing to many of you, and those of us who have some experience with astrology, might be nice just to tune into this. So I'm assuming you can see a circle with all the signs of the zodiac around it, and so here you can see the moon symbol and the sun symbol at 10 degrees of Taurus. So that is where the sun and moon will be coming into conjunction, and is the exact moment of the eclipse, which will be a partial eclipse. It's not visible in most parts of the world, but we do know that it's happening. And there's also this planet here, which looks a little bit like an antennae, and that is the symbol for Uranus. If you look down this little chart here, actually it doesn't look like the symbol that's up there, but this is Uranus. So all of them are in Taurus. So you can see the circle with a kind of crescent moon on it, or a sort of a symbol for a bull's head. So we've got that, as well as well, actually, Mercury has just also been passing through Taurus, but at the time of the eclipse will have just passed into Gemini. And you can see that the North Node is also here, and that relates to the ecliptic as well. So this is opening a portal with this new moon in Taurus, which is activating the opposition between Taurus and Scorpio. So we are going to have also, following this, we're sort of entering into eclipse season, which begins with the new moon solar eclipse, and the first eclipse season is from this new moon to the next full moon, which is going to be in Scorpio, and that will be a total lunar eclipse on May the 16th. But that's just the first part of the full eclipse season for this year, which we then have another new moon and partial solar eclipse, this time in Scorpio on the 25th of October, and then ending with the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. So this is a sort of the beginning of a wider eclipse season where we're really, as a collective, as a world collective, really finding that balance between the oppositional energies of earthy Taurus and watery Scorpio. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, the planet Venus, which is about beauty, harmony, pleasure, luxury, this feeling of being, of receiving, of this sort of divine feminine. And whereas Scorpio is ruled by Mars. Well, in traditional astrology, it's ruled by Mars. In modern astrology, it's ruled by Pluto. So we've got this, although it's a water sign, also quite a fiery expression of water and very deep. The symbolism of Scorpio is death, rebirth, transformation. And so we're kind of balancing all of this. And the other thing that we have that draws Taurus and Scorpio together is the idea of our values, whether it's emotional, psycho-spiritual values, or in the 3D world of the physical, the roof over our heads, the clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, all the kind of what makes us feel safe and secure and nourished. And so with Uranus in the mix, we've got this planet here. There's going to be a real awakening and shaking up of this dichotomy. Not so much going on over here at this point. This is the opposite sign of Scorpio, which the moon will be moving into in the next couple of weeks. As it moves into Scorpio, which will really, so the next 2 weeks is a really good time for those of us who are watching the replay right now. It's really good to tune into this beautiful gift that Elsa has given us to get us into this real space of alignment to deal with this deep change and metamorphosis that we are going through as a collective. What we have, I won't do the full reading, but just to kind of touch on, this line here is what's called a sextile, and we've got some more sextiles here to this stellium that we have in Pisces. There's 4 planets in Pisces at the moment. So although we've got our sun and moon in Taurus, and it's the Taurus-Scorpio axis that's being activated for this period of time, starting on Beltane Day and ending around the time of Samhain. So between then and now is going to be a real transformative time. And for those of us, particularly who are in business, who have a divine business or aspiring to create a divine business, this is a really beautiful time to get into deep alignment with our vision for that, and for how we can transform ourselves, align ourselves to create this beautiful vision, this kind of Taurian new earth reality within our own lives and beyond, through the power of Scorpio. Also, Taurus and Scorpio both have a lot of power. They have what's called fixed energy, which means there's a lot of determination, there's a lot of focus, concentration. So it's a really good time to really get clear on what it is that we're wanting to create in our lives and activate in our lives, and move steadily for that, and use this eclipse portal period to really awaken that, especially with Uranus in the mix. And as I was saying to Elsa earlier, there aren't any squares, there aren't any oppositions. So even though eclipses can be quite rattling, there's also the sense of ease and flow in this particular eclipse as we step into it. So yeah, I'm wishing everybody who is tuning into this all of that energy to take with them as we As we close this call, now let me just bring ourselves back. Okay, here we are. Oop, where am I? Okay.
Thank you, Fiona. That's so interesting and amazing. Yeah. It's so interesting thinking of all of the beings that are arriving now and being born at this time, and they'll have that natal chart with that oh my gosh, I've forgotten the word.
I've suddenly forgotten it.
I love that word, but it's gone out of my head, where all the planets are conjunct, like in Pisces and in Taurus. Like, that's a really interesting. Yeah, what an amazing natal chart to have if you're born.
Absolutely. Anyone who's born over the eclipse times can have a very beautiful chart. Quite magical in many ways. Lorraine's saying she resonates very much with the reading, and that she's a Taurus. My moon is in Taurus as well. So yeah, it feels particularly potent for me. So I just want to thank everybody who is tuning into this, whether in the present or whenever you're tuning in. I will definitely be re-listening to the beautiful sound journey that Elsa has very generously shared with us. Thank you so, so much. And would you like to just very briefly share about how people can continue to connect with you? Any offerings that I know that you've got this immersion starting on Monday. Just send us off with all the details on that.
Oh, thank you, Fiona. Yeah. So I'll just pop it in the chat. This is an upcoming immersion with me. If anyone who's been here or is watching feels called to go deeper into this temple space with the divine beings, that's really what I love to create in all of my online experiences and in person as well. And so this journey that is beginning on Tuesday is really this journey of awakening and initiation with the goddess presence in the triple form of Hathor, Isis, and Mary Magdalene. So we're working with these three great beings and their wisdom for the rites of passage for womanhood as well. So we'll be experiencing 3 weeks of devotions and ceremony to really awaken you to that divine feminine presence within you and reconnect you with your ancient wisdom as it wants to flow through you. So really excited for that. And you can always connect with me on my website. I have a free gift there for you as well, so you can sign up and receive that. And I'm on Instagram. I'm Avalon Songstress on Instagram, so come and check me out. Yeah, but so thankful for today, Fiona, and for hosting me. It's been such a pleasure.
It really has. Thank you so much. And I will be sharing all of those details on the YouTube link, and I'll also share them in the Divine Business Circle group. And I know a lot of people are going to be very grateful to have had this experience as we move into the next phase. Such a grounding and beautiful way to shift into this potent and powerful period. So thank you, Elsa. And yeah, thank you everyone who's joined us today. I will send you all off with so much love and look forward to seeing you at the next Divine Business Journey.